Everything's up on YouTube. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pullman City Council Meeting, the virtual meeting. And basically what we're hearing is this is going to be the last virtual meeting, and we can go back to the city council chambers. We can probably accommodate some who don't want to go to the council chambers. We're going to be 6-foot distance in the council chambers, just like we were before we started going virtual. But anyway, this is our meeting for Tuesday, June 23rd. And Dee, would you please call roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember McCall.
Here.
Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Records.
Here.
Councilmember Sorensen.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Present. Sorry.
That's all right. Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Under announcements tonight, Governor Jay Inslee and Secretary of Health John Wiseman today announced a statewide mandatory face covering order that will take effect this Friday. The order comes after a Saturday announcement of mandatory mask proclamation for Yakima County starting this week. After subsequent reports of cases increasing in additional counties, the governor extended the face covering requirement today to include the entire state of Washington. So starting on Friday, every Washingtonian must wear a facial covering when in a public space as mandated by the public health order signed by Wiseman. This includes both indoor and outdoor public space when one cannot physically distance from others by at least 6 feet. Music on Main is back on Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Note the new location, the Pine Street Plaza. There'll be a ceremony this Sunday morning at 10 of the raising of the gay pride flag at City Hall in the plaza between City Hall and the police station. June is LGBTQ Pride Month, and also using the occasion to celebrate the U.S. Supreme Court ruling prohibiting discrimination of individuals on the basis of gender or sexual preferences. And there's a special meaning towards the Sunday too. So Dan Records, would you fill us in on that?
So I really want to first say I really appreciate the city staff taking the initiative to have this flag raising ceremony. I've had the pleasure for the past year and a half or so to serve as vice president of Inland Oasis, which is a local nonprofit that serves the needs of the LGBTQ plus community in our area. And so I know that this has been something that the queer community has been wanting to see more queer events happening in Pullman and see more representation and visibility in Pullman and not just in Moscow where we hold Police Pride every year. So thank you to Adam and to everybody that's been a part of that. So June 28th, the day we're actually going to have the Pride flag raising ceremony, is the anniversary of the start of the Stonewall riots that began in New York City at the Stonewall Inn in 1969. And so that started off kind of what is now known as the gay rights movement. There were many organizations, many activities that happened before then, but that is the kind of the flagstone event that kicked off a community of people standing up and saying that they're not willing to take the abuse that they were suffering from the local police department at the time. And so this flag raising ceremony comes at a time in our country when similar statements are being made across the country and across the world in terms of what people are experiencing as abuse or unjust actions. And so I'm really thankful that our police chief, Gary, is standing up and being a part of the solution here. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. If you haven't responded already, now's the time to stand up and be counted for the census. Whitman County has only a 58% response rate as of last week, and data is used very importantly by cities and counties and the state to determine public service funding, allocation of seats, the House of Representatives, and much more. You go online, it doesn't take much time. Just go to census.gov. You can count on also the Pullman Farmers Market, open every Wednesday. That's tomorrow from 3:30 to 6:30 at the Brailsford WSU Visitor Center. And Pullman's 4th of July celebration exemplifies our great community spirit. We will have celebration, but not with public gathering. We're going to be shooting fireworks at 10 o'clock at night. You'll be able to see them if you start looking towards the east, towards the airport area. And we'll shoot those off at 10 o'clock. If you want to donate to the Chamber of Commerce for the fireworks, you certainly can if you'd like to. With those announcements, it's time now for the draft comprehensive plan update. And Pete Dickinson making his last major presentation to this city council before he retires. So Pete, I have my comprehensive plan. I have gone through every page just in your honor, okay? So
that's amazing, Mayor. Well, thank you. And good evening, Council. At long last, the Planning Department has released the draft comprehensive plan update for your review. This draft plan was prepared by planning staff with considerable help from our consultant partners, they being Burke Consulting Incorporated out of Seattle. They've worked with us over the past 6 months. And David Evans and Associates Incorporated provided assistance prior to that time. It's 243 pages long, so it's a pretty hefty document that's full of updated background data and discussions about a wide variety of community issues. As I mentioned in my memo to you, Council, the theme of the draft plan is charting our course to continued success. This draft plan is built on a solid foundation of accomplishments here in this community, and it's designed to take us to the next level of achievement. The draft plan has a 40-year time horizon, so we're planning out to the year 2060. And you'll note that the land use plan map, that's Exhibit 11, which is on page 54, shows an urban growth area that provides plenty of room for growth over that time period. The document presents a vision statement that describes Pullman as an innovative center for education and agriculture, a city with a thriving economy where residents enjoy a high quality of life and a strong sense of community. That's followed by a series of framework principles that further define our ongoing aspirations here. The draft plan, the meat of the plan, contains 6 elements that address land use, community design, housing, transportation, parks and open space, and capital facilities. 2 of these elements, the land use and transportation chapters, are required by state law to be included in the comprehensive plan. The others have been incorporated because they address vital aspects of our community. There are several overarching objectives in this draft plan. The plan is designed to sustain gradual, controlled growth, promote economic development, maintain a compact urban form, a wide variety of transportation options, provide a good mixture of housing at affordable prices while protecting neighborhoods, foster cooperation with WSU and our other community partners to improve livability, ensure that sufficient services are provided for all developments, and safeguard the city's natural resources as well as our historic and cultural resources. There are a lot of notable specific policies in the draft plan, far too many to describe here, but I do want to touch on a few of them. There are 2 new zoning districts that are proposed as part of this draft plan. There's a mixed-use zoning district that would provide for a combination of residential, commercial, institutional activities along certain arterial streets or other places where that might be appropriate, and a public facility zone to allow for the establishment and expansion of public facilities at appropriate sites. That could include city office and maintenance facilities, parks, and schools, for example. The document includes other specific policies to create self-sufficient, walkable neighborhoods close to businesses, parks, schools, and other amenities. Emphasize the downtown as the commercial hub of the community. Work with other agencies to develop a funding plan for our proposed bypasses and ring routes. Construct street improvements in accordance with the city's new Complete Streets policy, which promotes multimodal transportation. Implement traffic calming measures where they are appropriate, and consider a program to require parkland or a parkland fee for new residential subdivisions, which would be new for Pullman. Chapter 9 of the document presents an implementation plan. It shows what needs to be done to accomplish the policies and which parties would be responsible for making it happen. Finally, with respect to the review process going forward, my suggestion, and as Glenn mentioned, I'm a short timer now, so it's merely a suggestion, is that the council consider a joint session with the Planning Commission so you can get on the same page with them regarding the content of the draft plan and the appropriate review procedures moving forward. Typically, for a proposed plan like this, the Planning Commission holds a series of workshops to go over the document in detail, followed by a public hearing where they take formal input and they make their official recommendation. And then it goes on to the City Council where you hold your own public meetings and conclude by acting on the draft plan. Of course, those procedures can be modified as desired by the council. The only requirements are that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing and that the council act on the plan at a public meeting. And with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Questions of Pete on this? Okay, Nathan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pete, this is phenomenal. You know, as a fellow planner, I don't have your experience, but you know, this is just really amazing. I was looking through this before and I wondered, is there an area for bioregions or micro environmental regions in the document? I was trying to look at it. And I think the other thing I want to say is, you know, I've gotten to know you over these last 12 years. We will be very, I can't express how much I'll miss you. So just want to say that. So.
Well, thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. So the bioregions or microenvironmental regions are not addressed in the document, but the beauty of this is that we've got some time in the review of the document to incorporate some of those ideas. So I'm taking notes here to make sure that that gets passed along to the appropriate folks.
Thanks,
Okay.
Pete.
Others. Brandon, I see your hand up. Yeah. Brandon?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. I you know how many times I've asked for updates on the comprehensive plan, and I wasn't going to let it go. So I appreciate your work on this and working with the consultants. It is a long document, and so in an effort to try to, you know, have people at any kind of public hearing, to have them feel more engaged, what would your recommendation be for residents who might want to dive into the comprehensive plan a little, but might feel like 200 something pages is a lot? Do you have any suggestions for how they might be able to see how it applies to their vision, you know, personally or for their families of Pullman, and you know, so we can, you know, maybe get more people engaged and hopefully come to a public hearing about this?
Yeah, you know, we've done our best to try to summarize the document, and what the document is missing at this point is any kind of an executive summary. I tried to provide that in the memorandum to you for this meeting, and then also in the Planning Department newsletter that came out last week. And so that would be my way of inviting members of the public that don't have the time to read 234 pages of text, is to take a look at the summary that's included in the Planning Department newsletter, or take a look at the memo that was written for council tonight, and get a sense of where they might want to dive into it based on the synopsis that's provided there.
Sure, and I don't mind sharing that memo either. I would just I would end and echo what Nathan has said, and wanted to say I appreciate the years and years of service that you've rendered to our community, and I think everybody needs to know how many years that was of really dedicated service. So thank you.
Well,
I thought I heard Eileen
thank you.
earlier. Eileen, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. I was just delighted to see how much of what we have provided to you and to others in the goal setting on City Council that is included in this document. You know, sometimes it feels like, you know, goal setting is, you know, maybe a little bit too aspirational, but boy, this really grabs onto some of those things that we've been talking about in goal setting for the last couple 3 years. And that's really great to see that. And I say I don't know who gets the credit for making this a very readable document. It is big, but it is very readable, and so I certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
And
Thank you, Riley.
when I went through and I just, because this is a draft, I have a couple of suggestions. And so can we just email those to you and you'll pass them on to Burke? For example,
Absolutely.
when we talked about our wastewater treatment plant, there was no reference to all the money we've spent with the ultraviolet disinfectant. And I didn't see that or any kind of pictures of that. And I thought we had to get credit for that. And same thing, I think you have some great pictures in there. But I think the one that was picked for the airport by Burke, I'll blame it on Burke because you're a short term. That I think it was the old runway because I saw him parallel and I says, no, that's not the new runway. So we'll make sure you get photos of the new runway.
Thank you, Mayor. That's the kind of input we need.
Okay.
Mayor, to be clear, nobody wants pictures of the wastewater, though.
No. I'm saying that we might have a nice shot of the ultraviolet lights in work, whatever. We're not asking for a, tight shot. So, okay. Other comments from the council? Anything else? Okay. We're going to let Pete off that easy. Anything else you want to make a comment on, Pete? On that? Okay, Dan Records, I see his hand up.
Okay.
I was just going to say this is a lengthy document, so I haven't been able to pour over it quite in detail yet. But I really appreciate it, and I'm really glad to see that this is kind of that you got this accomplished before you left us.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that, and I think this is going to be kind of a monument to your time here at the city of Pullman as we move forward and go through this and incorporate this into everything that we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
The document of Pete.
All right. Any other comments? If
I'll make go ahead,
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes, go right ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, honestly, it's been a privilege to work for the city of Pullman all this time. And I want to thank all of you for your support and your advice over the years. Being a planner in a college community like this with a well-educated population, it's always interesting. I've had a lot of spirited conversations in my time here. That just comes with the territory and planning, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. So thank you very much.
All right. Of course, what we do, at cities, we do proclamations, Pete. So I have a Pete proclamation to read tonight.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Whereas the Pullman community, city government staff, elected officials have benefited in countless ways by a young man who changed his career path from natural resources conservation to city planning, left California, put down his roots in Washington state. And whereas in following new path, Pete Dickinson has been in public service since 1982, an employee of the city of Pullman since 1984, and at the helm of the city's Department of Planning since 1993. And whereas over these 36 years, Pete conservatively estimates that he has attended over 1,500 evening meetings in the city council chambers when considering city council, planning commission, board of adjustment, historic preservation commission, and a while back, the environmental quality commission sessions. And whereas tonight is the last meeting of the Pullman City Council that Pete will attend in his role as planning director, as he is poised to embark on a well-deserved retirement, but not until he holds a planning commission meeting tomorrow night. Now, therefore, I, Glenn Johnson, mayor of the city of Pullman, do hereby proclaim on behalf of the city council, staff, residents, and consultants, and having held no more than one public hearing, injected no new evidence into the proclamation that had not already been presented, all 8 of the appearance of fairness questions, fairly determined and impartially, with no financial interest, both personal and by my employer, with the agreed to findings of fact and conclusions, and without a resolution or ordinance, do hereby wish a great colleague and city planner, Pete Dickinson, our best for an outstanding, well-deserved, and well-planned retirement from the city of Pullman.
Hear, hear.
And Pete, we have it in a document form for you, and that'll be there for your retirement celebration Thursday at the new record. We'll make sure it's disinfected and everything else.
Follow all the protocols. Yeah, that's good.
And
Well-
Woo, go Pete.
we'll make sure it's executed.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Like I say, it's been an honor. So I appreciate very much all your support over the years. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Pete. Okay, now we move to the consent agenda. These items are considered routine in nature. Council's had a chance to look at them ahead of time. Do I hear a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, Laura McAloon, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Your consent agenda consists of a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of June 16, 2020, and approve them as submitted. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 100229 to 10288, totaling $2,042,665.21. A motion to approve payroll-related disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 10211 through 100228. Electronic transfers numbered 608, 610, 611, 613, 614, and 615. And direct deposits numbered 61983 through 62244, totaling $1,121,180.20, and a motion to authorize disposal of surplus property.
Is there any item the council would like out for discussion? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of items 1 through 4. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, we're going to adjourn the meeting of the City Council and convene the meeting of the Metropolitan Park District. And the first item before you is a motion to dispense of the reading of the minutes of the Metropolitan Park District meeting of May 12th. Do I hear that motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Do I hear a
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, we have Mike Urban now with the schedule of the budget.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Before you tonight is the 2021-2022 biennial budget schedule with the associated public hearings that get involved with that. You'll see a memo attached to this where I've laid out the schedule kind of by grouping as to the important dates. You'll notice that much of the schedule remains fairly intact from previous years, but there's been some additions that I want to point out where we're going to start doing some budgeting a little different so we can get some more time with council for input. Most notably, dates on the 27th of October, on the 6th of October, we'll have our initial public hearing regarding property taxes. On the 27th of October is when the full mayor's full budget will be presented to both the city council and to the board of the parks district for presentation there. And then you'll see on November 3rd for the parks and also November 10th for the city council that we've set up some work sessions to really dive into the budget, which is one of the big changes from previous years, where we've split it into 2 nights and we're recommending that we start a little early so we can get through these presentations to you. Now, since I've published this, it has been brought to my attention that Tuesday, November 3rd is election night. So I would certainly, if it's the board's will, to consider other options for that date. I didn't want to do anything ahead of time because I already know you give your Tuesdays up away from your families. So I wanted to take some input on there. So we can leave it as is. We can find another time. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention as well. On the 17th, we're looking to do the final property tax hearing. And part of the reason we're doing it just a little earlier is, remember last year, the commissioners decided they wanted to bulk approve all of the municipalities and district property tax levies all at once. So I don't want to be that guy running up to Colfax the very next morning to make sure we get this in time. And the following week is Thanksgiving anyway, so it just seemed like the appropriate place to put that. So with that, I'm asking for some feedback on the November 3rd item. Bear in mind that City Council will have the same discussion, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, there when we go back into that meeting, and then ultimately hoping for a motion and approval for the biennial budget schedule.
Okay, comments from the council on that November 3rd? It is a presidential election.
I would just assume not do that on that night, just because we are asking residents to be engaged and come to hearings, and if something is going to de-incentivize that, I think we should just come up with a different day.
Okay.
Would you like me to send out like a doodle poll and see which where we might land in a good spot there? Would that please the board?
Yes.
I'm seeing some head
Yes.
nods. Okay.
I'll mark November 3rd to be determined. And as soon as I have some feedback on that, then I can just bring it back as a consent item to adjust that day and keep the schedule where it needs to be. And that way it's fully published.
Okay. Any other comments about the dates aside from November 3rd? So do I hear a motion to approve these dates with the exception of November 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moving second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Metropolitan Park District?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Moving second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? With that, we reconvene now the city council. And the first item, surprise, surprise, is a motion to approve the 2021-22 biennial budget schedule. Mike Urban.
Thank you, council. This is the exact same document that I just presented to you as the board of the Metropolitan Parks District. I'll point out again that November 3rd, if it pleases the council, I'll go ahead and send out that doodle poll as well so we can combine the two meetings to maximize your time. And if that's the case, that it's acceptable, I'm asking again for a motion on this with a to be determined. And then once that's completed, I'll bring back a consent item so we have a full agenda for the 2021-2022 biennial budget.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Well, Mike, see, you got all the work, heavy work done already. Item number 2 is a resolution accepting the bid of IVS Incorporated, Angel Tracks for Bus and Transit Facility Camera Recording and Monitoring System. Wayne Thompson, our transit manager. Wayne?
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The resolution before you authorizes the award of a contract with the company Angel Tracks to replace our bus, van, and facility cameras. The project is 80% grant funded and will replace cameras and a recording system that are over a decade old. We brought this grant to you last September for approval, then spent part of the winter pulling together the appropriate request for proposal documents to be in compliance with FTA, since this is federal funding, and then put out an RFP this spring. We were pleased to find a fairly competitive market, and our top 2 candidates especially, very qualified. What separated the 2 were price and warranty. The chosen proposal is Angel Tracks, and they included a 5-year warranty over the standard 3-year warranty. Also, their lower than expected price tag has allowed us to take advantage of a 5-year preventive maintenance plan and still be well under the original grant request. This approach also should keep our system fully functional through the life of the warranty, and then also increase the time that we have before we have to start looking for a replacement system down the road. These cameras are invaluable in investigations of accidents, complaints, vandalism, and more. Systems like ours are now commonplace throughout the transit industry. And with a relatively small fleet, we're very fortunate to be able to equip 100% of our revenue vehicles and our main points of our facility. Our former system, as I mentioned, was over a decade old, and without regular maintenance, We felt we had about a 1 in 4 chance that the video was not going to be there when needed. And because of this liability, we put the project in our last capital grant application package and were successful. So I am requesting your approval of this resolution, which authorizes us to award the transit video system contract to Angel Tracks and proceed with the project. Our current timeline is to have installation complete before mid-August, when we expect to be back at full service. Thank you.
Questions of Wayne on this? Al Sorensen.
Hi, Wayne. Couple quick questions. So you just said the current system, you believe only has a 1 in 4 chance of actually recording anything?
If I said that, it was backwards. 1 in 4 chance that it will not record. So about a 75 to 80% success recording rate is what we are seeing.
Okay. I'm back to my fiscal concerns here. Has the system completely failed? I mean, I know you're saying that we only get 75% of video, but has it been an instance so far where we didn't have some video that was a crucial thing that we should have had?
We have, and this cannot be repaired. We've tried to work with the company, and it's too old to be repaired or replaced.
And if we were to delay this until the next year, the grant money that is there, does that have to be used in a certain period of time?
It does. It was a 2-year award, and it became available last July. So we're almost at the end of the first year.
Okay, thank you.
And again, a chance of 25% that you might have a liability issue is it's pretty expensive too in the long run if you had a problem with that. Other questions of Wayne? I don't think I see others. Then do I hear a motion on this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Move in second. Laura, would you read the resolution?
Resolution number R-41-20, a resolution accepting the bid of IVS Incorporated DBA Angel Tracks for bus and transit facility camera recording and monitoring systems and authorizing execution and delivery of the contract for said project.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I'm sure Dee's got the vote. Those who are opposed say no.
Nay.
Nay.
I've got how many nays? I got 2 nays. We've got only 1 nay. Okay.
No.
No, Brandon and Al.
Okay, thank you, Brandon and Al. Okay. Motion carries. We now go to item number 3. It's a resolution rejecting the sole bid for a contract for the Arterial Street Resurfacing project. With that, Kevin Gardis, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The city's Arterial Streets Resurfacing 2020 project consists of resurfacing Spring and Crestview Streets and Harvest Drive from East Main Street to Bishop Boulevard. Also included are ADA ramp upgrades and traffic calming features. Bids for the project were open on June 10th, with 1 bid received from Motley Inc. at $1,609,954.90, which was just under the engineer's estimate of $1,623,775.35. In reviewing the bid, staff noticed that the contractor did not meet the mandatory 4% underutilized disadvantaged business enterprise goal for the project. This project has federal grant funding, and WashDOT determines the UDBE goal for the project. If a bidder cannot meet the goal, they need to be able to show a good faith effort. Motley provided documentation to the city and WashDOT regarding their efforts to solicit underutilized disadvantaged business enterprises during the bidding process. After review by WashDOT's UDBE compliance lead, the bidder's good faith efforts were deemed inadequate, and therefore their bid is considered non-responsive. With that determination, staff is recommending rejection of the bid. Incidentally, on our last 2 arterial streets resurfacing projects that had federal funding, WashDOT allowed all DBE firms to satisfy the participation requirement And this was often done via a traffic control subcontractor, which was often a white woman-owned firm. WashDOT recently evaluated their DBE program and determined that white women-owned businesses had achieved parity with non-minority firms. And as a result, WashDOT excluded white women-owned firms from consideration in meeting UDBE goals for this project. With it already being late June, staff feels the best course of action is to rebid the project in the fall for a construction start in the spring of 2021, and we've confirmed that's acceptable with WashDOT. We will also ask WashDOT to reevaluate the UDBE goal for the project to make sure it is actually achievable. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, first of all, Al Sorensen. Al, need to unmute.
I clicked on it, it didn't go, sorry. Kevin, let's talk about the UDBE acronym there, and let's talk about what that is so that the council understands that a little bit, please.
Sure. I guess as part of affirmative action, many years ago on federally funded projects, many states and the federal government established DBE goals, disadvantaged business enterprise goals. The feeling was the playing field was tilted towards away from minority firms, and they were having a hard time getting started in the construction industry. So the DBE program was set up nationally to help facilitate minority firms in gaining access into the construction industry. So for many years, there have been, whenever there's federal funding involved, we have to check with the agency and determine whether there are either voluntary or mandatory goals. A voluntary goal just means we have to try to meet it, but if we don't, then it's no harm, no foul. Mandatory goals mean we really do need to meet that requirement, or we have to show good faith effort of what we did and we couldn't meet that requirement. Good faith effort is fairly complicated and labor intensive, and it requires a lot of work on the bidder's part. And perhaps with this project, some of our local bidders may have kind of stumbled a little bit on the UDBE part of it, since the traditional kind of flagging companies that have been used for this type of work in the past to satisfy that requirement couldn't be used to satisfy the DBE goals. So we're gonna work with WashDOT to try to figure out if that requirement really is achievable, like I said before, and then work with the bidders to see if we can help them through and educate them on the process that they have to go through. So hopefully I answered the question.
Yes, thank you. So this UDBE is a new thing that's just happened since last year, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, I went to a training at WashDOT within the last year or two, it may be a couple years, where Federal Highways audited WashDOT and their DBE program and determined that they needed to prioritize and target some of the minority firms that weren't still getting work. And so this UDBE is an effort to try to help those disadvantaged firms.
Special on Facebook.
Okay, and then
Somebody's on talking. Okay, so
so Kevin, can I just finish where I'm going with all this? Is that okay? Or?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was hearing some competing audio here. Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Al.
So in order for you to be considered one of these underutilized businesses, you have to be registered in the state of Washington. Is that correct?
Yes, and you have to, so I can't remember if it's just a state registration or you also have to be on the federal list too, Al.
Okay, and so in checking into this just a little bit, I'm finding that the types of businesses that would have needed to be used for this project, that there isn't any within about a 200-mile radius, and the closest ones are on the west side of the mountains, making it quite difficult for a project in Pullman to be done with having to have a company from the other side of the mountains as one of these underutilized companies, which would make the expense of this project quite a bit more. If I'm not, I mean, I would think they've got to travel a lot further. So the application and the good faith effort made by Motley and Motley on this was denied by WashDOT. And why was it denied? Was it because they didn't go out and do it enough? Did they not explain it enough? You know, if there's nobody, quote, in the area, and I think a couple 100 miles is a pretty good area, I'm thinking that maybe we should be able to do something to have the good faith done. But you know, it's up to WashDOT with the grant money. I understand that.
Your point about Eastern Washington and Western Washington being different is correct. There are less minority firms in Eastern Washington. So yes, oftentimes we would have to, you know, they would have to solicit through a state of Washington minority and women-owned business enterprise website, which we have done in the past. A lot of times they have to put advertisements in the paper, letting, you know, maybe in Spokane or in some of the areas where some of these contractors might be. And then when WashDOT actually comes up with the goal, they are supposed to look at what DBE firms are in the area and the types of trades that might be on, because they do it on a project by project basis. So when they look at a street project like the one we're talking about, they say, okay, well, traffic control could potentially be UDBE, things like surveying. There's a few different subcontracting types that they identified that they thought, you know, the contractors could get to the 4%. You know, it's something that we always sweat out whenever there's a mandatory goal in the project. So far, you know, this is the first time I can remember in a long time where a contractor has not been able to meet that goal. And so that's why we really want to go back and have a conversation with WashDOT and go through kind of their methodology and their conclusion of how they came up with the 4%, and make sure that we agree with that.
And if we did your recommendation and did not award the grant, is it possible for us to go ahead and award the grant? But if we do, we don't get the grant money. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, $1.6 million for this summer that we could leave in the budget possibly for some shortfall, maybe, Mike, I don't know. We can move things around and borrow money. Might not be a bad idea, but I'm really concerned about this UDBE consideration by the state. They have to look at this a little bit geographically in regards to the projects. I truly believe, you know, Motley has done a lot of things around here, and I believe they're a good company with things. And I would hesitate to say that they did not try to find somebody. So I for sure want us to talk to WashDOT and make sure that you know, they understand where we're at here.
Understood.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this? Seeing none, do I hear a motion on this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
I heard a second. Would you read the resolution, Laura?
Resolution number R-42-20, a resolution rejecting the sole bid for contract number 20-01, Arterial Streets Resurfacing 2020.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Okay. And yes, Motley and Motley's an outstanding group, and we're lucky we have them here in Pullman. I'll tell you that. They've done a great job out at the airport and other places around here. So it's always nice to see. And the other thing is, Kevin will say right off the top, whenever we have a kind of disaster around here, whether it's flood or whatever, they can call Motley and Motley, and they bring their crew out and they help us. And it's just a great cooperation. I just really appreciate Motley and Motley, and sad when we can't have a local firm that gets a grant on it. That's my editorial comment. Is there any new business to come to the council tonight? Okay, I see Al's hand. Nathan, did you have your hand up too? Okay.
Just real quickly, wanted to talk about the very quick change in downtown. Brandon's got a little picture of it behind him there on some of the concrete barriers. And, I think it was great that we were able to get the crews out there, get the lines painted and all that. But I have some concerns and I find some problems with how we did this. And I need them to be voiced because I've had multiple citizens talk to me about it. We may have jumped the gun just a little bit in regards to getting the paint on the ground and the barriers up before people even knew what was going on. I think we failed in regards to letting our local residents know what was going to be happening. And in regards to how they needed to park, there's no signage down there that says back in only. I took multiple pictures of over the weekend of people swinging out and parking headfirst in instead of backing in. People didn't know that that's what they were supposed to do. And then I also have some concerns about the way that it looks down there. And I know that we were trying to use the things that we had on hand. I think it was great that we got some barriers from some other help with this. But, I got to be honest with you, it sure doesn't look very good to me. And it's a problem for me that we did such a project that we think is going to be a great thing. The painting on the ground looks good, but those barriers are a mess. They're here and there. There's no signage. People don't know what's going on. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. And I would caution us, we were so excited to get it out there. And I'm one of the people that wanted to get it out there as quickly as we could. But I think we need to be a little bit careful and just don't jump into the pool until we find out there's water in there, I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are on any of this or if they've had anybody say anything, but I just wanted to chat about it a little bit.
Okay, Nathan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'll say I totally understand where Councilman Sorensen is coming from. I've heard a lot of comments. Older individuals have told me, look, I don't have one of the new cars. I can't turn my neck to look behind me, even using the, different, mirrors, they can't do it. Now, coming from a farming background, I don't have as big of a problem with it. But I mean, I definitely see where Councilman Sorensen is bringing those up, and a lot of individuals. We have a significant older population where it might be more challenging. But I do also know this is a trial period. And I recall from our last council meeting that the majority of council members had said, let's just go with it. And so this was not, I was not necessarily in that. I'm not saying anything against those who are. I'm just saying majority of the council said, go with it and let's go forward. So that's what I have to say. Yep.
And we did go forward because we were given that kind of direction. And the other thing was they saw when they had a maintenance and operation crew, they could actually use and try and get those barriers in. And again, we're trying to use our available material that we had, so it wouldn't cost any more than what we're doing right now. So, but yeah, there was a lot of different factors in there. And yes, there should be some signs that said back up. They do have on our city website, we have the instructions about it. We also have, Clayton's put up a video on how to back up. There's where they can actually see that instruction. Dan Rickard, to see your hand up.
Yeah, I just also like to say that I think the word's getting out there now. I mean, I kind of expected that there would be a transition period where it would be kind of surprising to some or people getting used to it. And that's kind of the whole point of the trial period, is to get people used to the idea, get them to experiment with it, try it out, and see how they feel, how comfortable they feel with it. The barriers, I agree with Al that they don't look the greatest. I mean, they're not pretty. They're just functional, and we're trying to save some money there with using what we had. I do have a question maybe for Kevin about the barriers. I noticed there are some of those orange barriers that are fillable. Are those all filled with water, or are there some that are empty? Because I've seen or heard some people talking about how some of them aren't. Some of them are movable. So that's just a question.
They're all supposed to be filled with water, but I'm making a note to make sure we check that. I noticed right before the council meeting that it looked like a few cars had, when they were backing in, had pushed a couple of them in one block a little bit into the bike lane. So we'll get those fixed and make sure they're filled with water.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm kind of with Nathan on the, I've had lots of jobs where I've had to back up cars all day long. So it's not really an issue for me. I find very comfortable like backing in, and I find it to be more safe and more easy to like leave the parking space, and which is why kind of the consultants are talking about back end angled parking, is when you're re-entering traffic, it's a safer position to be entering from. But I think one thing we might look at doing is, as we go forward, is bringing up some of those, because when we talk with the consultants about this, there are numerous traffic studies assessments out there that show how safe backup angled parking is, and some of those statistics on the use of that, and how it's worked in other cities. Is it possible we could combine some of that stuff and put that out there in communication about the impact on other communities and the safety or reduction of accidents once backup angle parking is implemented and people have gotten used to it? Because I feel like this is, a lot of the complaints I'm seeing right now remind me a lot of discussions when communities put in a roundabout. There's a lot of hesitation at first. There's a lot of, I don't know if this is going to work. And then once people get used to it, it just becomes an everyday part of life. So I think, anything like this that we change, this is a radical change for a lot of people that haven't experienced this before, but we got to give it a chance. And if ultimately we get to the end of the pop-up period and people really are voicing opposition, we need to really think about that. But that's the whole point of the pop-up, is to be able to give people a chance to experience it and then formulate an opinion, as opposed to just going with people making opinions based on no experience with the actual thing that we're talking about.
Brandon, I think I saw your hand up earlier. Brandon.
Yeah, and I would I would challenge the thought that by putting something on our website that's going to give an indication to drivers. We definitely do need the signage up. There's just no question, and I don't feel like everybody is confused that's head-in parking. I do think there are a number of folks doing it either to be funny or for whatever other reason, maybe to prove a point that they don't like it. But, I think of Becky McCrae and something that she had mentioned, which is if something doesn't seem like it's working, that doesn't mean we have to scrap everything, right? Let's find those components over this trial period that we don't like and see if there are ways to modify. So if the concrete barriers look ugly, maybe there is a way to beautify them, paint them, do other things for the permanent installation. So, it's early and it happened quickly. And I think our role is just to tell folks, look, it is for a few months, and we are soliciting that feedback. The one question I have is there a central place, a central repository where this kind of feedback can be given? Or is it just all over social media and variety of emails, sometimes to council, sometimes to individual council members? I mean, how are we collecting this so that that we're all on the same page? That's the only question I have on this.
I know I'm getting some as mayor, and
Sure.
so I make sure that Clayton and Kevin get the feedback, hoping that Public Works is keeping the tally. So we're hearing back. Eileen, did you have something you want to say earlier on this?
There was a meeting of the Downtown Association on Monday, and we didn't. Brandon and I both attended, and we did not hear much in the way of strenuous disagreement. So I think that's one in the plus column.
Okay. And Nathan, earlier, did I see a hand up for you on this? Okay, Pat Wright.
I've heard a lot of the same things that Al referenced, as well as the fact that people were almost caught unaware of this happening when it did. And I think there was also some confusion with what was going on downtown with all the discussion we had relative to the parklets. So that those all kind of melded together. And then one last comment that I heard, which I thought was very interesting, and I don't think anybody had thought about this before, was the effect of the exhaust from vehicles backed up to the storefronts and the face fronts of buildings was a concern for some people, which that never came up in the study. I know that. But that does kind of change the whole airflow thing with exhaust going right directly into the face of those buildings. So that's what I've heard.
Ann, did I see a hand up with you earlier? Okay, we'll go back to Dan and then, Kevin, did you have a response? Kevin, did you have a response? It was
yeah, a couple things that have come up. We have ordered signs, so as soon as they get here, we'll get the signs put up. So shouldn't be too long. And then there is an email link where the public can provide feedback, and we have gotten a lot. And we are keeping all of those comments, and we'll make those available to council and to everyone else when the trial period is up.
Okay, Dan?
Kevin, I just wanted to ask, I haven't been able to go down since I'm out of town right now. I haven't been able to go downtown and see, to do a full tour, but do we have the ADA striping up for the places that we talked about?
Not yet. I believe it's happening this week. I don't know if it's tomorrow or the next day, but it's going to be soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Al, go back to you. You started it, so back to you.
Yeah, so Kevin, what are the signs going to say? Where are they going to be? Is my first question.
I don't have the exact wording on the signs. Clayton ordered them, but they'll be placed in each block to let drivers know that the parking on the south side is back-end parking.
When you say each block, you mean on the sidewalk or on the concrete barrier blocks?
It would probably be on the concrete barrier blocks. Clayton's working on that, so I don't know what his thoughts are, but it has to be out far enough that people will see it as they're driving down the street.
Okay, and then in regards to all of the orange coning at the end of all of the streets and everything, how long are those going to stay out?
Well, some will be, some ADA spots are going in where some of those are, so they'll come out when the ADA spots go in. But as far as the orange cones go, I don't know that we have any plans to take those out right now.
Okay, and then just as everybody's thinking about all this, remember that the plan is not to have the bike lane there. Those barriers will not be there if we follow through with the BBS plan. It will be angle in parking all the way back to the sidewalk, correct, Kevin?
Correct, yep.
Because the bike lane is going to be on the other side of the street where there is parallel parking.
Yes,
so,
correct.
You know, we're doing a test that's got a lot of things involved with it. This is not the way that it's going to be. Well, it could be, but it's not the way that it was designed to be. And then my next biggest question is for Pat. You said you can't parallel park. Have you backed into one of these yet? Well, come on.
No, I can parallel park on the north side of the street. I can't do it very well on the south side of the street, and I haven't tried the back end on the south side of the street. So there you go.
I practiced back in over in Olympia, and every time I tried to back up, there was somebody that was always too close to me before I could back up. And so I still have that. And I saw your hand up.
Thank you. Kevin, I had a question about the effective timing of the light at Main and Grand when drivers, there's a spot blocked off right there in front of Carmel Minogue's business. And I'm wondering if that affects the timing of the light, because when I come down South Main, and I want to turn south onto Grand, it just seems like that light is not triggering as quickly as it used to. And it could just be my thought, but I wanted to ask about that, please.
We'll definitely take a look at that, Ann. I know that Clayton got an email about that. I don't know if it was late last week or maybe yesterday. And those are triggered by loops that are in the pavement that activate that signal. And so we had to go out and make some adjustments so that it would extend the signal field a little bit further, because the cars weren't parking quite close enough to the loop. And that was making it so the light wouldn't trigger. So I think we addressed it through that, but I'll double check with Clayton tomorrow.
Brandon, I see a hand earlier from you.
Yeah, I think one other thing to mention, Councilmember McCall had said something about the Downtown Pullman Association, and yes, businesses seem to be largely in favor, although there were some concerns and they were justified. But a few people mentioned just personally being able to navigate downtown as a pedestrian. They felt a lot safer with their kids walking across the street on that short block. And, keeping our eye on the ball, one of the things we were trying to do is make it more pedestrian friendly, because again, people buy things, cars don't buy things. So having them feel comfortable walking downtown was one of the major objectives of this. And so, I know that there will be a lot of people in the next couple months that feel very strongly one way or the other, but I think we need to make sure we don't react too quickly. We take all that in and then make an informed decision later.
Well, when we were watching this being installed with Mike Urban and Adam, and I was there talking to three Lincoln middle schoolers, and they were all thinking, "Hey, this is cool. Something's cool happening to downtown," which I just want to make sure you have that reflection. They enjoyed that part. Nathan?
Yeah, I know we're all excited about the future and downtown and the youth and all this. I just want to continue to emphasize, because I've worked as an elder care, helper. This is really, from what I've heard from people who are older, it's very, very difficult for them to back into this, turning their heads. You have surgery, so on and so forth. Other people know better than I do, but this is what I've heard. The back end is very, very difficult. And I've said it before, I'm saying it again.
All right. No other comments on this? And that was Al?
Yeah. I'm not against this project. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to say that I think we need to plan a little bit better, educate a little bit better. I think we need to get it out there a little sooner. We just kind of threw it on people and boom, it was there. So I like what we're doing. I just want us to, get the information out, as everybody else has said, multiple other things going on. So Kevin, we need to continue to, inform and educate so that people understand what's going on. And I believe it's actually against the law to pull head first in when you've got back in parking. And I'm not saying we should give them a ticket or anything. I'll be misquoted for that already. But we need to educate the people down there. And if we see somebody that's pulled in the wrong way, just say, hey, we're trying a new thing and it's back in parking. I don't know how we do that. But if we've got the parking enforcement people running around or any of that kind of thing, we need to continue to keep this moving, Kevin, okay?
All right. Since that was the only new business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Please note that we have the June 30th and the July 7th meeting canceled. We'll have a next meeting. Will probably be in the council chambers, unless the governor extends the OPMA again. Who knows? Okay.